On today's Mega News, Andrew Francis confirmed his reprisal as Mega Man EXE back in January? Huh? Potential bad news for anyone hoping for online net battles. And is the Battle Network Legacy Collection a source port or emulation? We'll present one modding wizard's take on the subject. All this and more coming up on today's Mega News Roundup. Legs go, Lan! Welcome back to the Mega News Roundup for June 29th, 2022, at least as I'm recording this. I know it's been a while since I've done an official episode like this, and man, we missed a lot of stuff. Mega Man the Power Battles and Power Fighters is coming to the Capcom Arcade Collection 2, for example. That's pretty big. I just hope it has online. Similar to my hopes for an online mode for the Battle Network Legacy Collection, which just got announced yesterday. I already put out a video about that yesterday. And well, dive is dive. New characters, new stuff happening all the time. Although the last 3 weeks have been nothing but filler. That'll probably change next week though. Anyway, for this roundup, we're keeping it locked on the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. Obviously, it's the big talk of the net lately since it's been announced. And a lot of stuff has been brewing in the community, discussions, weird developments, all within the past day. So today I want to take the time to share some of the more interesting developments in regards to the Battle Network Legacy Collection and give some of my own thoughts on it. Let's start off with a quick update on the collection itself. The official website has launched, and most of it is stuff we already know and covered, such as the gallery, which will include over 1,000 different pieces of artwork, that's a lot, and at least 188 pieces of music from across the series. And of course the fact that it's going to be split into two collections, Volume 1 containing Battle Networks 1 through 3, Volume 2 containing 4 through 6. As for why the Legacy Collection only has the original Game Boy Advance versions of each game and not something like Double Team DS, for example, well, it turns out the Japanese title for the collection, which is always different from the Western version, is Rockman EXE Advanced Collection. I'm getting Pokemon Advanced vibes over here. But in all seriousness, this title would suggest that indeed they are focusing on the Game Boy Advance legacy for the Legacy Collection. Don't ask me about 4.5 or Battle Chip Challenge though. Battle Chip Challenge is a spin-off and they don't normally do spin-offs in the Legacy Collections anyway. As for 4.5, it's never been officially localized, and I would imagine they're not about to use the fan translation already out there either. Even though the devs have gone on record at least 2 times saying they would totally allow Capcom to take it. With this focus on the Game Boy Advance, that's also going to mean no Operation Shooting Star here. Looking at the trailer for the Legacy Collection, they showed a lot of Battle Network 1, and something becomes very apparent fast. This is clearly the original vanilla Game Boy Advance version of Battle Network 1. In fact, it's actually the Japanese version, Rockman EXE. More on that later, but the main thing that'll stick out to you is that the UI does not black out the chips that you can't select when you go through and select in the custom screen. That's because Battle Network 1 never did this, but Operation Shooting Star did add this quality of life change in order to bring the game more in line with the rest of the series. So that pretty much confirms right there that Battle Network 1 is not going to feature the quality of life changes that OSS had, which is kind of a shame because the big one OSS did was fix a Lekman scenario, which is a giant pain in the butt in the vanilla version, but it's actually way more tolerable in OSS, such as allowing you to recharge your batteries infinitely. Of course, the collection isn't out until next year, so there's still time to implement these kind of quality of life changes, but I wouldn't hold my breath on it. Another thing you probably shouldn't hold your breath for is online multiplayer. That's because on the official website for the Legacy Collection, you may notice that it says Players 1, implying that the collection is solely a solo experience. One player only. So is the dream dead? Does that confirm no online multiplayer at all? Is Capcom really that tone deaf? In all honesty, probably. But in my own personal opinion, this may not entirely debunk the online multiplayer. One player could just mean that there's not going to be any local multiplayer, like in Mega Man ZX Legacy Collection, where you could have 2 players play locally on the Z Chaser mode. And remember, every Legacy Collection up to this point has had some kind of bonus mode. Classic had the challenge mode, X had X challenge, I just talked about ZX's Z Chaser mode, so that begs the question, what is Battle Network going to have that sets it apart from the other collections? Because I'll tell you now, gallery is not the mode. Every collection has a gallery, and yet, that's all that's been announced for the collection so far. The Games Included and the gallery. That's it. Which is strange because with every Legacy collection, they announced what the bonus mode is from the very first trailer. And yet with Battle Network, it feels like they're being a little more secretive about it. Or at the very least, they're saving it for later. Because if you take a look at the title of the trailer, it literally says first trailer, implying that obviously there is going to be more trailers in the future. We don't know when the second trailer will come, maybe Tokyo Game Show or the December anniversary, but with the collection still having that very vague 2023 release window, there's still plenty of time for them to announce that mysterious bonus mode at some point in the future, either with trailer 2 or beyond. And I don't want to get anyone's hopes up, but the fact that they're saving what the bonus mode is for later, combined with the fact that they're seemingly taking an extra year for a game that otherwise seems feature complete, tells me at least that whatever they're working on with that extra time, ooh, it might actually be pretty spicy. Is it going to be that fabled online multiplayer mode, spanning chips from all the games? That's my personal pipe dream. Or really, with it being Battle Network, there's so many other ideas that could happen. You could have an EXE4 style tournament mode with nabbies from every game. You could even go the X Challenge route and allow you to fight against multiple net nabbies at once, which would be a series first, even though those of us that know how to mod Battle Network have been doing that for years. You could go even further and do a crossover with nabbies from different games fighting together. And even further beyond, you could even play as different nabbies. Wouldn't that be cool? Another idea I had was taking the concept of the Serenade time trials from Battle Network 3, where you had to work with preset folders and delete the boss within a certain amount of time. Now take that concept and turn it into a challenge mode, where you have a preset folder, navi customizer, and special battle conditions, field conditions, special rules, and you really do have the makings for a pretty epic challenge mode. Seriously, with Battle Network, the ideas just write themselves. But what do you guys think will happen with a potential Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection bonus mode if one does get announced in the future? Do you think it will be online PvP? Or is it going to be something a little different? Let me know in the comments, I like to hear your ideas. Speaking of potential special features for the collection, it's time to address a thing that we pointed out in the previous video concerning a certain narrator that was calling out the title of the collection and the trailer. Roll the clip.
Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection.
Last time we pointed out how similar it sounds to Andrew Francis's take on Mega Man.EXE in the NT Warrior anime. Yes, the surfer dude voice. And well folks, while I haven't seen any tweets of Francis confirming it or anything since the trailer, at the timing of this video anyway, it turns out that the madman himself has been hinting at his reprisal of the role as early as January of this year. Mother of Alpha, are you kidding me? How did we all miss that? So first we have Studio Mammoth 1 on Twitter sharing the screenshot of some cameo comments. Andrew Francis replies, "Wouldn't it be something if I reprised the role in some form? Hashtag stay tuned." I just want to take this time to say right now, I apologize to Andrew Francis if we actually get him in trouble for sharing all this. I don't know if there's some NDA in play or not, but I would assume there is. But to be fair, man, sharing all of this stuff is very risky. And it's about to get even riskier because we have more where that came from. Lovely Sukino on Twitter then shared her own cameo featuring Andrew Francis himself with a special little message at the beginning. Well, let's hear what MegaMan.EXE himself had to say.
I wasn't going to say it, but a little bit of insider info. They actually may or may not be making a MegaMan.EXE cartoon, and they may or may not ask a certain voice actor to reprise his role as MegaMan.EXE. Now, you didn't hear from me, may or may not be true, but I would keep your eyes open.
So yeah, that's pretty interesting, ain't it? Again, I'll feel bad if he gets in trouble for this, but to Sukino's credit, she did intentionally withhold this part of the footage until the Battle Network Legacy Collection dropped and we heard his voice in the trailer and we're like, oh my god, it's him! So yeah, this surfacing now does make sense at least. But getting back to what he actually said, the interesting part here is he talks about not a video game, but a cartoon. And obviously, when it comes to MegaMan.EXE, he did the role back in the NT Warrior anime, which to him would probably be a cartoon, even though it's technically a Japanese anime, just dubbed over, right? And you could take this in several ways. You could say, oh, he's just covering up the fact that there's a legacy collection and he's just saying it's a cartoon to not entirely give it away. Or, if we have to go tinfoil hats on this, maybe there's more to that comment than meets the eye, huh? For example, what if his role in the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection is more than we anticipated? Because keep in mind, while this is common in Japan, Capcom does not typically call back dub actors. They have a few times, but that was usually during a span of years, not several decades down the line after the Battle Network series is already dead, you know? So you have to think, there's no shot they went through all the trouble to bring back this guy for one spoken line calling out the title of the game. No way. There has to be more, right? Which brings us to this clip saying that there might be a EXE anime, cartoon, whatever, that he is reprising in. And I would have to assume he is talking about the collection. So here's some of my guesses as to what it could be, and this is entirely speculation. The first idea is maybe there's some new dialogue of some kind, maybe in a bonus mode, or he is dubbing over lines in the actual story of the game. That would be a pretty sick mode, by the way, if they actually introduced dubbing in the Battle Network games. Obviously, Double Team DS and OSS had clips when you're in battle, but nothing in the cutscenes themselves. That would be something. And they could totally do the whole grunting thing that they did in Double Team DS and OSS, though some people really hated the Battle Network 5 Double Team DS voices. But hey, at least we would actually have the man himself doing the role this time. So that's idea number one, bonus mode or some kind of dub over the games themselves. The second idea is when things get spicier, because when he says cartoon, he's talking about an animation, right? What if for the Legacy Collection they're including some kind of anime thing for the Battle Network series, exclusive to the collection? After all, the Mega Man X Legacy Collection already included the Day of Sigma OVA as part of a special little bonus. However, in this collection's case, they're bringing back some old actors to reprise their roles. They're hiring people to do new voice work. So that begs the question, are they hiring these guys to do an original animation specifically for the collection? Or perhaps they're dubbing over an existing piece of Rockman.exe media. A really good one would be the movie Program of Light and Darkness. That came out in Japan back in the heyday of the EXE series, but not in the US because by that point, Battle Network died over here. The Anti-Warrior anime never continued past Access, which is a shame. So we never got the movie either since it took place during the stream era of the anime. But wouldn't it be awesome if just for this collection, they actually dubbed the movie for the first time? That would be really hype, and to me it would make perfect sense for a bonus just for the collection. A third idea, which is probably the most likely one, I would be shocked if this doesn't happen, but Andrew Francis probably got more lines besides the title of the game, and he dubs over the different voices that might be called out while you're navigating the menus, which we see in the trailer is already kind of modeled after a PET, so it would make a lot of sense for none other than Mega Man EXE guiding you through the menus as if he is inside your PET. And then there's the elephant in the room. If he's talking about cartoons, are they finally going to dub the Stream, Beast, and Beast Plus seasons of the Rockman EXE anime? Or will they do a Dragon Ball Z Kai thing with the EXE anime? Just redo it from the start, but uncensored, with an actually good script, yet with the same voices we all knew and loved? God, if they brought back Brad Swally, paired with Andrew Francis, and they got him doing the famous lines together like Battle Routine Set Execute, oh my god, that would be so hype. But we don't know yet. We have no idea. All we really know is that Andrew Francis is back. And we have these really old comments from him saying something about cartoons or reprising his role, which is probably just related to their collection in all honesty. I would be shocked if they brought back the anime after all this time. But who knows? I mean, EXE is still kinda popular in Japan, and clearly even us Western fans, there's a lot of people that grew up during the Battle Network era, like myself. We were kids back then, but today we're adults, and we got a love for the series still. So who knows, anything's possible. But what do you guys think of his comments in the cameo video? Really interesting, right? What do you think is gonna happen? Let me know in the comments below. So to end off this video, I have 3 more little tidbits to share. First, there's the fact that when the Legacy Collection was announced, Rockman EXE or Battle Network, depending on your region, was trending. Yes, it was trending on YouTube, the trailer was. Battle Network was trending on Twitter, and in Japan especially, it was trending at #1. Even the producer of Mega Man himself, Kazuhiro Tsuchiya, came out and commented on the fact that it's trending at #1 in Japan. He was really pleased about it. So that can only mean good things. That Capcom themselves are seeing the hype around the collection. Let's hope the collection does well, and maybe we'll get even more Battle Network content down the line. Wouldn't that be cool? While we're still on the subject of the Capcom staff in Japan, Rockman Unity over in Japan got in on the action too. They rebranded their Twitter to Rockman Series, and Ochi-san is still there of course. But we also got a comment from scenario writer Iguchi-san, who you may know better as Mr. Famous, or at least the guy that Mr. Famous is based on. Our friend Protodude on Twitter summed up what Iguchi had to say. He thanks everyone for their patience. They know we've been asking for this for a while. What's more, Iguchi is having a new lab coat made to wear alongside Battle Network Legacy Collection's promotion. Hey, a new Mr. Famous coat. That's pretty neat. Can't wait to see that. And it wasn't just Capcom celebrating the Legacy Collection's announcement. We even have the legend himself, Hideo Kojima, coming out on Twitter and reminiscing about the series. For those unaware, Hideo Kojima worked on the Boktai series, which is famous for doing many crossovers with the Battle Network series, particularly in 4 through 6, although the 6 content got cut in the US version, oops. Still, it's a bit surreal seeing the man himself post a screenshot of the Boktai crossovers in the EXE games, and another screenshot from the Complete Works books talking about how his likeness was used for a character in the series, with one simple word: nostalgic. Yeah, let's hope that for the Legacy Collection, they might actually restore the Boktai content for EXE6. Wouldn't that be something? On that note, actually, it's time to ask the question: are the games in the Bound Network Legacy Collection source ports or emulation? On Twitter, Prof9 made an interesting thread about his thoughts on the subject. And for background information, Prof9 is the modding wizard himself that has given the community many awesome things, such as the Rockman.EXE 4.5 English translation. He helped with the Operation Shooting Star English translation, and more recently, the excellent Mega Man Star Force DX patch. Suffice to say, if anyone would have extensive knowledge on the inner workings of each of the Bound Network games, it's this guy. Anyway, I would encourage you to read the thread for yourself, but I'll go ahead and give you the highlight here. Now, you may remember that we were talking about the fact that all the text in the Legacy Collection looks really high res. The font looks kind of ugly, but yeah, that is not pixelated at all. However, Prof9 discovered that in the trailer for the collection, if you go frame by frame, you'll realize that they are simply overlaying the high-res assets on top of the game, as opposed to being implemented into the game natively. In fact, what looks like the English version and our version of the trailer is actually the Japanese ROM for Rockman.EXE. The strongest evidence supporting this is the fact that on the chip folder screen, you see the original symbol used for the non-elemental chips, with a slash symbol instead of the dot, which is used in the English localized version and the rest of the series. Now, my own personal theory on this is that it may not even be in the Legacy Collection itself. It may just be video editing, especially since all the footage used is from the Japanese version. They probably just replaced everything with English text in the trailer itself, which would be painstaking to do, mind you, which is why we notice that throughout the trailer there's some weird stuff, such as on the custom screen in one screenshot, you'll notice that chip data transmission sending chip data box is not aligned correctly. They're trying to cover up the Japanese version of it, but in some frames it doesn't look right. And Prof9 pointed this out himself when I brought up the fact that it's probably video editing. So if true that it's mostly video editing trickery, we can't even say if the trailer is truly representative of what the collection is going to be, at least in terms of the text and stuff. What we can say is, based on the trailer, they haven't done anything like fix up the weird mistranslations and other typo errors. Prof9 points out that Jack-in Mega Man.EXE transmit is still there in EXE1, whereas in EXE2 and on it became Jack-in Mega Man.EXE execute, as we all know. Net is not capitalized correctly in another screenshot, just like in the original. So based on these, it remains to be seen if they're going to do any major changes to the script at all. We know that in Bound Network 4 there are tons and tons of errors. Legs go land. He was a great young man, wasn't she? He'll now be spelled incorrectly, the list goes on. We don't know based on this if they're actually going to fix any of that. Maybe not, maybe it'll just be the way it is. But anyway, the main takeaway from this is, at least for the trailer and the screenshots that they have released so far, they are definitely using the Japanese versions of the games and then overlaying English text on them, which would indeed seem to debunk the fact that these are source ports. In reality, we're most likely looking at emulation here. The reason being, Prof9 says, the GBA Mega Man Bound Network games developed by Capcom were written in assembly language. That makes it very hard to do a real port. You'd have to rebuild the game from the ground up. Which, side note, is probably also why seeing an actual online mode implemented into the ROMs of the games themselves would be very difficult to do. Not impossible, I mean, the fans have done it recently. They added Bound Network 6, 5, and 4 rollback netcode, what the heck? But for Capcom themselves to do it, it would probably require more effort than they're willing to do, which is why I've always posited that they may as well just make an all new bonus mode for the PvP. Hopefully they do it. So with it now established that they're using the Japanese ROMs for everything, assuming it's not merely video editing trickery, it begs the question, are they also going to use the Rockman 6 ROM? And if they do, and just English translate that, you know what that means? That means the Boktai content is back here too. Because the thing with the English version of BNLC is all the Boktai content literally got deleted from the game, making it difficult to restore that content because it is not there in the code anymore at all. But if you were to translate the Japanese version, that is a very viable route to restore the content and make everyone happy. In fact, a fan translated patch for EXE6 does exist and we even played it on the channel. And you know what? If that's the route Capcom wants to go, if it gives us the whole post game for BN6, I am definitely down for that. Why not? Because the alternative is they're just going to make you play through EXE6 all in Japanese, and that's not very fun, especially since the games are very text heavy. After all, past collections have included all language versions of each of the games, so there is precedence for that. Speaking of language versions, there is actually going to be a new Chinese translation for the games as part of the Legacy Collection. And Prof9 does point out that Chinese text would look very bad if they just put it into the ROM themselves, which supports the theory that they're just going to overlay text in the UI over the Japanese ROMs. It's very interesting stuff here. Makes me wonder what's really going on behind the scenes of the Legacy Collection, and whether we will actually see a translated Japanese version of EXE6. Obviously, I would imagine they're going to just reuse the English version script for it, but that leaves the question of what they're going to do for the Boktai event and everything too. That would need to be translated, and although the fans have done it, I don't know if Capcom's going to use the fan translation, you know? So that leaves us with some good food for thought here. There are so many possibilities for this collection, from anime stuff with Andrew Francis, bonus modes, are we finally going to get online PvP, and what the heck is going on with the UI and the Japanese ROMs and everything. We'll just have to wait and find out. It remains to be seen when the next info drop for BNLC Legacy Collection will come, maybe at TGS like I said. But otherwise, we may be in for a little bit of a wait until the next update. But for now, that's all we got for today. I want to thank you all for watching. Definitely stay tuned to ShadowRockZX for more on the Mega Man Battle Legacy Collection and all things Mega Man, of course. And check out the Mega Man Network for editorials and videos like this one. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and until next time, rock on! Oh, wait, hold on folks, that's not the end of the Mega News Roundup, because as we were finishing up the video, another Mega Man announcement happened. Oh my goodness, Mega Man fans are eating really good this month. Like, Nintendo didn't just have BNLC Legacy Collection waiting in the wings, they have another Mega Man announcement for us, and that is Mega Man The Wily Wars is coming to the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack service. When? The answer, my friends, is today! Yep, it's available right now. Wily Wars is joining Comic Zone, Target Earth, and Zero Wing for the Sega Genesis lineup for June 2022 on the expansion pack service. And you can see a little bit of the trailer here, and from what it looks like to me, this is the official US ROM for Wily Wars, the same one they've used for the Genesis Mini. So in that way, it's nothing new, but what's really significant about this is that this is the first ever port for Wily Wars on a console ever, basically. Because you have to keep in mind, before the Genesis Mini, Wily Wars was really hard to come by because there was no physical release at all in the United States. You had to import it from Europe or Japan. until the Genesis Mini came out and they officially released a US copy of Mega Man The Wily Wars as part of it, and then Retrobit did their own physical edition, but that was it. Until now you can actually play Mega Man The Wily Wars on the Nintendo Switch alongside the upcoming Mega Man The Power Battles and Mega Man 2 The Power Fighters on the Capcom Arcade Collection 2, and all of the Legacy collections, including the upcoming Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. Man, we are just eating so good right now. The question remains, Rockman Tyson when? Maybe we'll have to wait until December this year to see that one, but that's really the big one that's missing now. But in all seriousness, I just want to emphasize again how big of a deal this port actually is, as we have talked about wanting Wily Wars on a console many times here on this very show. So in that way, it really is a dream come true. Now, the bad part about this is it's behind the expansion pack, which is a whopping $50 a year. To be fair, that's not as bad as, say, PlayStation Plus or anything, but for some people, $50 a year just to play Wily Wars is kind of asking a lot. To be fair, it does give you access to the Nintendo 64 games, all of the previous benefits like online play, and some of the DLC like the Mario Kart DLC, Splatoon 2 DLC, and so on. But if you don't care about any of that, yeah, it might be a hard sell for some people. Makes me wish we could just outright buy Wily Wars, you know? Buy it for keeps to play on my Switch anytime I want to. And hopefully Wily Wars may eventually make its way to other platforms besides the Switch one day. But for now, this is what we got, and you know what? It's better than nothing, I guess. Ear Gamma, I just had an epiphany. Mega Man The Wily Wars was once exclusive to the Sega Channel online service in North America. Now it's exclusive to the Nintendo Switch online service on modern consoles. Well shoot, history repeats itself in funny ways, my guys. Alright, roll the outro.